Looks good.
All right. Well, it's 7 o'clock. I hope everyone online had some social time. You got your favorite drink with you. We got a good crew online. We got a really good crew in the room. Not counting David, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 in person. That's pretty awesome.
Jesus
Must be because of David.
Yeah.
What's that?
Must be because of David.
I'm sure it's because of David.
I hope not.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
We all wanted to see him.
So,
He's got the hair, but he's, I don't. Never mind, just never mind. Go back to your daytime.
are they talking? Is he talking bad about us?
They are.
I said, which one it is?
I don't know, mine is running.
Oh, Rick, I'm gonna make noise at the bird blind tomorrow just for you.
I don't
Or
go to
with
the
a Saturday.
block, so that's fine with me. Don't mess with him.
Anyway, all right, welcome to the very first meeting of 2026 for North Georgia Photography Club. I'm glad you guys are all here. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you. We are starting off with a photo review this month for the year. I need to share the screen and record it so that we can have this later for posterity and for those who were not able to be here. And of course, Zoom moves things every time. So
Not
now,
as easy as it looks, is it?
oh yeah, it's easy.
Recording in progress.
Last month had a lot of this from Mike, so. All right, we are recording. And we are going to share that screen. All right. For those at home, can you see the presentation screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I love that no delay bit. That's so awesome.
How'd you get them to talk? They never talked to me when I asked that question.
There are people in the TV.
There's people in the TV. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Anyway. So welcome to the first meeting of 2026. I'm going to try to take this a little more seriously tonight. A little loopy. Maybe that blizzard beforehand wasn't a good idea. A little too much sugar. If you have not already, it is time to renew your dues for 2026. It's only $20 for an individual, $30 for a family. It allows you certain perks like going on the club field trips. We got a whole bunch of those planned this year. Rick's going to talk about those later. You get to participate in the club photo review, which is what we're doing tonight. And another benefit is we have a super secret Facebook group for members only. You get to get added to that if you are for a paid member. And we're also working on potentially doing a members exhibit this year. We're working on finding a location for it. But a members exhibit and competition where we get to display our work framed and on the wall. So that should be fun. One thing we did at the end of last year was we did election of club officers. Fancy word, CEO, also known as the president. The election results were I'm still here and still taking this role. The CFO, treasurer, Danielle McCon, she is staying on and doing that again for 2026. And Dick has come back and is doing the secretary role. We also had a board meeting with the executive committee and the board, and it went really well. We got a lot of great things planned for the year. A little more direction, a little more focused. So I'm looking forward to it. I wanted to go ahead and announce this now. Mark your calendars. February and April, we have 2 national level speakers presenting to our club. David, you probably know both of those names.
I know Matt and TJ Thorne. It's familiar, but I know Matt.
Matt runs the Natural Landscape Photography Awards. He has a podcast that has been photography based. He's an instructor. He's a workshop leader. He's an educator. He is going to be presenting on photographing a new location that you've never been to before in a creative way. Tips and tricks on how to do that, sight unseen, showing up somewhere, and ways to kind of boost your creativity and get you going when you get to a new place. I'm really looking forward to that. I've been working with him to try to get him on our schedule. That will be a Zoom only meeting, and we will not be able to record it because we cannot put it on our YouTube page because it is part of their kind of licensed copyrighted material that they don't really want out in the open where other people could take it and represent it. So mark your calendar for both of these. These are going you'll have to be on Zoom, and there will be no recording of them. TJ is a photographer that is an instructor. He's, in my opinion, one of my absolute favorite photographers because he does a wide range of things from landscapes to buildings to details to abstracts to water flow patterns. And his presentation is going to be creating authenticity in your photography. A little more high level. It's not so much rule of thirds, leading lines. We're kind of trying to branch out into things that make you think a little bit more, things that you might apply to your photography the next time you're out. So just mark your calendars for February and April. Those are our next two guest speakers, and they are going to be on Zoom only, and we won't be able to record them. I have speakers planned for June, August, and October. I just have to get their schedules ironed out to where they land. Coordinating between the three of them, trying to figure out who's going to take what spot. But one of them is going to be taking on a photography project. If you've never done a photography project where you come up with a concept and you shoot a project for an extended period of time, that's not talking about going out once on a weekend and shooting a project. This is long-term projects. We've got a presentation on that. And a couple others that I'm working with them, and we're going to work out the schedule and get them onto the schedule in a way that works for everybody's schedule. During our board meeting, we came up with our themes for the rest of the year. This will get posted on the Facebook group. Mike will get this sent out in an email to everybody. So you don't have to write it down right now. You can, because it's going to be up there for a minute. But our themes for the year are going to be, well, tonight we're doing the best of 2025 because that one's pretty easy and you shouldn't really need a whole lot of time ahead of that to figure out what your best photograph from last year was. March, we're going to do wildlife. Pretty fitting. We're going on a little wildlife adventure this weekend as a club, so you might get some images there. In May, we're going to do unusual subject. Now, these were all as voted by the members that responded to the member survey at the end of 2025. The top vote getting categories that we threw out there as options, these are the ones that the club voted on. This isn't just, I didn't just come up with these out of my hat. I'm not wearing a puffin hat like David, so you'll see that in a minute. But these were the subjects as voted by the club membership. And in July, we're going to do landscapes. In September, we're going to do abstracts and patterns. And then in November, everything old. So those are our themes for the year. Yes, David?
Everything old, they cannot take a portrait of me, but they can Rick, right?
They can probably take a portrait of you too.
How old are you?
You're retired now.
Okay, they can take it of me.
Yeah.
You're still, yeah.
He's older than that.
I'm older.
It doesn't say everything older. It just says everything old.
You don't have to look.
I better get my glasses.
You're wearing bifocals, you qualify. I wear bifocals, I qualify.
A sequence of self-portraits of everybody.
And you can take both of them, then it's twice.
You take a picture of Rick and David at the same time, you might just win. Throw someone else in there, you got the trifecta of old. Yeah, so it's not the years that count, right? All right, we have a lot of field trips planned for this year. And Rick has been working his little tail off, getting all these planned and set up and all the back work to get it done. But before I ask Rick to come up here, we are going to need a new field trip leader for 2027. Rick is going to step down at the end of this year, and so we're going to need somebody to help the club work with CPS, their person on their side, to help plan and orchestrate all the field trips for the year. So if there's anyone in the room, anyone online that has any interest in helping with that, please get in contact with me
Or me.
or Rick. You know, email, text, Facebook message, a homing pigeon, you know, something. Get in touch with us because we're going to need somebody that helps take care of that after this year. With that said, Rick, you want to come on up and talk?
Yeah, just for a minute.
Just for a minute?
Yeah, just for a minute. I had some notes, but my glasses are in the car, so they aren't that important, are they? All I wanted to tell you was, you can see the list up here, and Travis was kind enough to make one consolidated slide that shows them all. The only ones that have been announced thus far are this weekend's trip to Wheeler, right? That one's been out for quite a while. The February trip to the Savoy Auto Museum, which is going to be Corvettes, the C1, C2, and C3 vintages of Corvettes, which are my favorites, the earliest versions, will have come in that Tuesday, I think, and then we're there Saturday. And then Shirley Miller has not been announced yet, but we'll get that one out pretty soon. That's the Wildflower Trail, absolutely beautiful place. If you haven't done Shirley Miller for wildflowers in March or April, this is a good opportunity to do that. The April trip to Port Royal, I got to tell you, our friend Joe Kaverick, who's sitting in the room here, did a great job of visiting the place with his wife and coming up with a great list of notes on some cool places to go. It centers on Port Royal, which is where there's a very small, very compact area, absolutely filled with birds. And so it's going to be a little bit of the shooting fish in a barrel thing that we had at the alligator farm 3 years ago. Kind of the same thing. But there's so much going on in South Carolina, we've got several other things we're going to be doing. And if you've seen the invitation, you know that's going to be a busy couple of days there. So some long days too, but we'll get a lot of photos. Gibbs Gardens in May, the grist mills, Joe actually wrote a book about the grist mills and covered bridges of the state of Georgia. And some of you have a copy. I've got a copy of that book. Very informative. Joe led a field trip last year to a selection of those items. He's going to lead another one this year to a different selection of those things. And I'll tell you, when I sent the request out to say, tell me what field trips we've done in the past 3 years that turn you on, I took a quantitative view from the responses, and the number one response was that trip of Joe's. So that comes back in June. And July we're going to do, as we always do, one astral trip in the summer. That will be myself and our friend Umit Yuxel from the CPS Club leading that trip. We don't have the date picked yet, but if it's in July, you can pretty much look at the calendar and figure out which Saturday is closest to the new moon, and that's probably when it's going to be, right? August, the Atlanta Botanical Gardens, but the one in Gainesville. We've done the one in Atlanta a couple of times. It's been a few years. But I don't know that we've ever done a field trip to the Gainesville one, and I personally have never seen it, so I'm kind of excited for that. Oakland Cemetery in October. Our friend Mike Sussman has volunteered that he will have somebody there to act as a model for us. So all that creepiness, plus the city right next door with the big buildings, plus maybe a creepy model. I don't know. I'm hoping it's not.
About 10 or 15 creepy models. If you've ever seen my Halloween shoot I do every year, that's what
Okay.
we're going to combine with that.
Well, hopefully you're not one of them, but as long as you're bringing, okay.
But my wife is occasionally.
Okay. And then in November, every year we do a field trip for fall colors. And we're always going north. I mean, most of the time it's North Georgia. Last year we went got a little more elaborate. And with the help from our friend Travis, we wound up planning a longer trip up to Tennessee. And that was gorgeous. This year we're going to go a different direction. We're going to go south. And we're going to do the swamp cypress, bald cypress, whatever you want to call them, at Banks Lake in November. And that's about the right time, around mid-November, to see those things in their majestic colors. I did do a trip with club member Corey Huntington this past November to sort of test that idea and see if it made sense for a field trip, and it was great. We froze our stuff off, but it was a fun trip, and came back with some cool photos. So hopefully we'll get better light next year than Corey and I had. but that's on the calendar for November. And of course, we don't do a field trip in December, just because everybody needs a break and you got a lot of family stuff going on. So the hell with it, take December off. We do that every year.
September.
I'm sorry?
You missed September.
Did I skip September? Oh,
Sure did.
yeah, the Beltline. So, thank you. We did a trip like this it was 2020, because we were just we thought we were coming out of COVID in the summer of 2020. Remember that? We thought we were all free and clear, that things were getting better, and we started going outside. CPS did a trip to the Beltline, and there's a restaurant we sort of started from right at the corner of the park. And we walked the Beltline, we walked out to the old Fourth Ward, we saw the skateboarders, which is great. I love photographing those kids. It's amazing what they can do. So that's what that trip will be in September. Thank you. And Travis, that's about it.
Okay.
I do have a prospect. I'm not going to name names yet, but I have a prospect for next year to help us out with field trips from the CPS side. As Travis said, it would be good. That person would like to have some help, so it would be good to have somebody also from North Georgia, and I'm hoping the two of them can work together and sort of keep this thing going the way we've been doing. So that's it.
Thank you,
Here you
Rick.
go, Travis.
And now what everybody's here for.
Oh, God.
The man with the penguins.
The man with the penguins and the puffins.
Oh, those are puffins?
Our guest judge tonight is more of an educator. He will tell you that he's more of an educator, and I agree with that. He's a workshop leader. He's a Tamron image master. He's got more experience in photography than I've been alive, and he is something of a local legend. There's a few stories we don't know, but I would like to welcome David Akoubian to the microphone. And it's a pleasure to have him here, and I'm glad that he could be here tonight to give us some constructive and valuable feedback on images. There's a ghost in the TV.
So first of all, thank you guys for the honor of having me do this. When Travis sent me the email, I was really... So when Travis sent me the initial email, I really was excited about it because it said, we're really not looking for the competition aspect of it. We're looking more for the education part of it. And if you know me, you know that I enjoy the education side of it as much, if not more, than the photography side of it. And I think that a lot of it stems from most of the instructors that I know are really introverts. And it's sort of, this is our alter ego time that we get to go out and we get to be an instructor and we actually get to talk with people before we, return and hide behind the dogs at the house and stuff. But I was really excited at the idea of doing it. And then he sent me the images and I'm like, wow, these are really good. It's going to be kind of tough, but I'm going to do my best to simply offer some ideas or thoughts that I have when I look at the image. And typically when I'm looking at an image, I look for certain things. I look for visual impact. Then I look for a decisive moment, especially if it's wildlife. Because doing a portrait of an animal is one thing. Doing something where the animal is doing something interactively in its environment adds that much more to it, in my opinion. So I look for certain things. Then, of course, the exposure and the lighting and everything, which a lot of times we can't control the lighting. You can't determine when Bigfoot's going to come out of the woods and be in the perfect light. Bigfoot just comes out when Bigfoot comes out. Which reminds me of a story. A lot of people confuse Sasquatch and Bigfoot. Yet he never complains. So y'all didn't realize there was going to be like a bonus joke section in here as well.
Can we mute?
Yeah, Travis, Mike wants to mute me now. So, all right, let's go to the first one. So, gosh, you guys, I bet say you might see this, this weekend, but the moon is not in the right phase. I really liked this image. So, some of the things that I think that the photographer did really well. Number one, I like the crop, because what you want to do is you don't want to have too much information in a frame. there's that old term negative space. Now, I live in negative space in a lot of my compositions, but negative space is productive in that minimalistic look or the simplistic look when there's a subject matter that's strong enough to dominate the frame. But if you were to look at this as a 16 by 9, if you were to take it into a 2 by 3 crop, you'd have a lot of extra blue. And I think that the viewer's eye would wander into that blue a little bit, wanting to find something that was there. So I think that the 16 by 9 crop was a perfect crop for this image in particular. I don't know how you did it to get separation, because I literally did 6,000 or 7,000 frames Monday and Tuesday at Wheeler. And I think out of 6,000 or 7,000, I've got maybe 20 that I had birds separated between each other. So being able to simply capture the birds with the space between them is phenomenal. And if someone says, "Is this luck?" you should always say, "No, I meant to do that." And the way that you do it is one philosophy that I've got as a wildlife photographer is I am not very judicious with my frames. I would rather shoot too many frames and have 20 out of 21 that I can't use versus having 19, but the 2 that I missed were the ones that I needed. So there's a reason that, in my opinion, they put 5,000, 10,000 image spaces on a memory card is for you to use them. You don't learn from what you do right, you learn from what you do wrong. And the majority of the time when you try to limit the number of frames you're doing, especially with wildlife, you find out what you did wrong was not having on a high enough drive. The birds were blinking, you got nictitating membranes, you've got merger between the birds. So in my opinion, this is as close to a perfect image as you could get. The cropping is good, the exposure is great. You've got probably 2 adults with its semi-adult colt with it. Perfect spacing, everything in there is just really, really nicely done. So this is, I've only been to the Grand Canyon once, so I'm going to guess and say this, well, actually twice. I went to the north and then the south. I'm going to guess this is the Grand Canyon. I could be totally wrong. But what makes this image a successful image, you hear the rule of thirds all the time, but have you ever asked yourself why the rule of thirds exists? It simply exists to break up the static part of an image. That if you don't have equal impact in the bottom and the top, making it 2/3 and 1/3 tend to give you that separation you need to put emphasis into one part of the frame versus another. It's also referred to as asymmetrical compositions, which are purposely creating visual weight in one part of the image and the other part of the image just supports that. Now this is not symmetrical, but it is a 50-50 crop, and it is successful because you've got as much visual impact in the top as you do the bottom. Totally different subject matter, totally different feels in the image. You've got the texture of the rock underneath, but then you've got the texture in the clouds and the light on the clouds above. So it really works for this image very, very well, is that equal spacing between the two, or the equal distribution between the two sides, the top and the bottom, but neither one of them outweigh the other, because one of them wouldn't be as good as it is if it didn't have the other part in there. So I think that's very, very important when you're doing images, is to pay attention, like, the rule of 2/3 or the rule of thirds. If I'm photographing something and there's nothing happening in the sky, but there's a lot happening in the foreground, I will quickly do the rule of 9/10. So I will minimize that area that there's not anything going on and maximize the space that is going on. I have a rule of 9/10, I have a rule of 8/10, a rule of 7/10, and all the way down. So, just understand, rules are made to be broken. And when you hear there's a rule, ask yourself why that rule exists. And then once you can identify why that rule exists, then it's easier to make those variations from those rules. So, hope that helps. So, I thought someone's hand was going up, sorry. Fantastic image. I mean, I don't know if it's in the wild or if it's a captive animal. It doesn't matter. It's beautiful. The only things that I would say, the exposure is great. I love the depth of field. I would make two small suggestions that I try to do, and it's not always possible, but if it is, it's something to always keep in mind. So when I talked about equal impact between top and bottom or right and left, if you were to take your hand and cover up the left side of the frame, what's happening on the right side? There's not a lot. So I would probably try to do the composition where I moved that, I'm guessing it's a leopard over to the right side of the frame a little bit, so it's looking into the frame. Then that space that's behind it, that third of the frame or whatever, is not as significant as it would be if it's half of a frame, because half of a frame is tough to carry. Now, I'm going to guess that little dark area in the bottom left-hand corner is possibly why the photographer had to put the animal, centered into the frame a little bit, because maybe there was more of that darker area to the left, and they felt that was going to be a negative to the frame. It was going to be a distraction. So what I would do in a situation like this is simply break the rules of saying, my sensor is a 2x3 sensor, but I'm going to do this as a 4x5 sensor. I'm going to crop out 10% on the left-hand side in Photoshop or something. There's nothing there's nothing that says you have to follow those aspect ratios that are inside of your camera. That first and foremost, you should always photograph for yourself. And when you do that, if you're seeing the image as a 4x5 or an 8x10, which would be a 4x5 composition, or 2x3, 16x9, 2.35x1, whatever the case may be, always keep that in mind. And even 1x1, because there are images that work better as a square, versus as a horizontal or rectangular vertical. So just sort of try to keep that in mind. The only suggestion I would do is maybe just crop out a little bit of the right side of that frame, excuse me. So beautiful exposure on this. I mean, you've got a very heavily backlit bird here. So, however it was done, whether it was Photoshop or just simply exposing for the bird and letting the background go a little bit bright, then bringing it down. Great job on the exposure. I would probably echo the same thing from the previous image into this one a little bit. The bird is centered up, and if you were to sort of cover up the right side of the frame and look at only the left, all you've got is the very back end of the bird. Whereas if you take out about 10%, somewhere right in this area here, the bird's a little closer to the frame, the edge of the frame, and it's looking into the frame, because when you have a lot of space behind the bird, which is a prey animal versus a predator, you always wonder what's behind it. Why is it a little bit nervous there? A great example that I had seen, the best example ever of the only time that a composition really works with the bird near the edge of the frame, that it's looking out and a lot of space behind it. One of my teachers was a guy named Art Wolf, and Art did a photograph totally by accident of a bald eagle flying through the frame, and he captured the bald eagle almost all the way out to where the beak was almost touching the edge of the frame. And when he got back to his studio and he printed it out, this was back in the days of Cibachromes, he looked at it and he was wondering what he was going to do with this particular image. And then it hit him. This is back when DDT was really, really big. He put a little a title on it and sold the image saying, "Flying into Extinction." So there was nothing behind the bird, which was very symbolic for the image itself. He took lemons and made lemonade with it. But when you ask him, he says, "Oh yeah, I totally meant to have the bird on the other side. I just wasn't quick enough to put it there." So always try to have wildlife looking into the frame. I look, the legs are cut off a little bit. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. There could be something in the ground that could be distracting. So that doesn't bother me, really as much at all. Beautiful image. I want to say this is up in the Smokies, but I'm not 100% sure. Wherever it is, it's gorgeous. A couple things that really make this image really nice and conquer some of the difficulties that the photographer was presented with is you've got the rich saturation of the trees, but then you've got that beautiful fog coming into the background. And what I liked most about this image when I looked at it the other day was you've got this nice leading line from the bottom right side of the frame, leading you up into the frame and into the fog. I love fog in situations like this where you've got a really strong leading line that takes you into nothing. Because that question that you leave the viewer with is, gosh, what's beyond that fog? They want to visually explore what you're looking at. And that's the whole thing with photography is, I'm not a control freak in most of my life, with the exception of photography. I want the viewer to see exactly what I'm seeing. I want you to look at something first, and then I want you to follow that through the frame to get to a certain point. And now whether I give you that definition of what's at the end of that frame or not, that sort of dictates, the situation. And here, I don't want you to know, or the photographer, I hope, didn't want you to know what's beyond the fog. There's that question that the viewer can always have for themselves. It's their interpretation at that point. But that strong saturated color on the left-hand side, the strong saturation in the leaves above it, really make that nice leading line coming from the bottom right, going up into the frame, very, very nice. Now, when you're doing something with fog or something as the final destination point, you don't want to have it what we would refer to in the portrait world back in the old days as an effeminate pose. You wanted a masculine pose. So a C curve or a straight line was always considered much stronger as an element, a leading line element, than an S curve. Because if you ever look at the paintings from the Renaissance period, which is a great way to learn composition, they always had females to where they were leaning forward, but they always had their head tilted back, which formed a natural S curve, which softened up what you were looking at. Men were always leaning over, had that very, very strong C curve. And in this image, that leading line takes you into the C curve in the river, and I think it makes you look at it that much more. So it makes it that much stronger, in my opinion. So when you can do that, great. Now, you can't always go out there and move rocks in a river to change the course of the river. Obviously, that would be somewhat unethical. But when you can, simply by doing it, try to frame it up in the image that way. So this is a really cool image, and I guarantee I could get some good either rye whiskey or bourbon whiskey at this place. And I thought, my initial thought was, I'd like to see a little bit more on the right-hand side of the frame, because there's that space on the left-hand side that I would like to see repeated on the left, but I'm not there. I don't know what's over there. So I can't really make that judgment as to what was on the right-hand side. There could be another building. There could have been a van. There could have been something that would have totally thrown the theme of the image off. So I sort of ignore that. I do like the rich colors in it. I would love to see the same image in like a sepia tone, because I think that everything in this tells me 1890s, the Old West and everything else, a desert town somewhere, that's in the middle of nowhere during the gold rush days or something. So I think it's very, very strong as a color image. I would love to see it as a sepia tone. And whoever this is, if you want to make it a sepia tone and then send it to me, I'd love to see it. I think my email address will probably be in the on the page or something. If not, just I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. But beautiful image. The exposure is done very, very well. You've got great detail on the subject matter, the people, then also inside of the saloon as well, and outside, great detail on the sky. All of that's very nicely done. I saw this and I was like, this is a Travis Rhodes. And then I said, no, there's another one that I said, that's Travis Rhodes, and I was right. So this is just another beautiful scene. I am someone that I find peace in photography. That's why I don't do weddings anymore. I felt I wanted to do something less dangerous than weddings, so I started photographing bears from 10 feet. I felt it was a lot safer. But to me, a river is peaceful. A river is something that, whether you're with yourself or a couple other people that have the same mindset as you can go to a river, you can relax. You walk away possibly wet, but you also walk away typically nice and relaxed, and you feel rejuvenated, and you've got that life back in you. I really like this image because you've got a nice foreground with the rocks, you've got the texture in the foreground, then you've got the beautiful saturation and the contrast of the trunks of the tree, the main segments of the tree, everything on the right-hand side. So I think that's beautiful. And the time of day that this was done, the shadow is on the right hand or the left hand side of the tree, the right hand side of the frame. And the key there is, I think this would be a totally different image if it was done at the opposite side of the day, because that black contrast against those reds and yellows much more than it would have if you'd have had the lighter tree trunks on the right-hand side of the frame versus on the left-hand side, because you've got the darker greens of the evergreens, and probably some mountain laurel and some other stuff in there. So the contrast of the left-hand side of the frame is stronger, having the lighter tree trunks there versus the darker tree trunks on the right-hand side. So very good choice. It made, I don't know if someone asks you if you did this on purpose. The answer is always what? Yes, you did it on purpose. One thing that you might do, I don't know if it has got a polarizer on it. I'm a big fan of circular polarizers whenever I'm photographing any type of moving water or any type of foliage. It increases your saturation and your contrast just a little bit. There's a couple areas of the water that I think that if it was a little bit darker, if it was a little bit filtered out, it may draw your eye into it a little bit more. As it is, it's fantastic. It's just something that you may want to try. Again, digital film is cheap. You do nothing wrong to hurt yourself by experimenting. Do it, turning the circular polarizer, different little, 10 degrees, 15 degrees, 20 degrees, when you go out and do that, to see which one you like the best. Because regret is the worst thing you can have as a photographer when you're going out to relax. So, I don't know what the title of this is. It should be fresh sushi or sashimi in this case. This is, at the very beginning, I talked about the decisive moment. This is the decisive moment. Now, if the goal was just sitting there without, I think it's a goal, not a turn. Hopefully it is. If the bird did not have the fish at that particular point and time, it would be a totally different image. If it had the fish in its closed beak, it wouldn't have that visual impact that it's got right now. If the fish was still in the water, or the bird's head was pulling the fish out of the water, totally different image. This is that moment when the bird is turning the fish, so the fins and the scales and everything else are going to be facing in, and it can swallow it easier. So I think capturing that moment with the water flapping or dropping behind the wings that are flapping, perfect timing. The decisive moment is captured very, very well. Notice the bird is closer to the right-hand side of the frame, looking into the left. So what happens if you cover up the right? There's nothing there on the left-hand side, but you don't want it to be. You want that bird to be looking into that space versus that empty space behind it. So very well done. A white ibis, or I guess it's a white ibis. If it is, it's breeding plumage. And I'm guessing it's breeding plumage because it's also got some nesting material. Beautiful image. The key to capturing something that, when the bird's all dressed up to go out and party, you want to capture certain things. And in this image, you want to capture that contrast between that blue eye and the red beak, the red bill. And the photographer did a great job of probably waiting for that very moment that the light was striking that eye. Because if that eye was in the shadow, it wouldn't be as prominent and it wouldn't have as much contrast there. The photographer's choice, again, this looks like a 16 by 9, very good, because there's probably not a lot happening outside of that area above or below the bird. And again, the bird is to the left-hand side of the frame, walking into the right-hand side of the frame. So very, very nice composition in this one as well. Now I saw this, first thing I said is, this is probably a Mike Sussman.
And it's not.
And it's not. Oh my
I
gosh.
did a training last year, so I said I'm not doing one this year.
Well, it could be a Mike
I was there when
Sussman.
that was taken though.
So I really like this again. When I look back at that image of the saloon, this is also what I picture, because I look at it as the same time frame in history as the two images could be. This one in color probably would be a lot less visual impact to it as it is in the sepia tone or the monotone in this case. The choice of the edge framing and everything else really makes it look like an old print. And I really do like that. There's a theme that the photographer, that they identified, and they stuck with it through the taking of the image, through the processing of the image, the cropping and everything is perfectly done. So very well. And just to be off the subject for a minute, Travis was talking about, I think it was, right, you were talking about the project, assigning a project. So I think as a photographer, if you want to grow, that's something that's very, very important to do to yourself, is to assign yourself projects. I'm constantly working on 3 or 4 projects. I'd started one before COVID that was called Heroes and Healers. And I was photographing service animals, guide dogs and some other things. But instead of just the animal itself, I was associating the animal by itself, then I was doing it with the families. And you'd be amazed at how many organizations welcome you in when they see what you're doing. And I didn't do it to raise any type of money in any way, shape, or form. I did it to raise awareness. And when you do these projects, always do it with the idea of self-education versus profit motive. Because I think that way you express yourself more so in the projects you're doing versus trying to please a client. Because it's 2 different things, photographing for yourself and photographing for a client. And I think that you get to express yourself more when you're doing it, again, for yourself versus somebody else. So give yourself, I always have a macro project going on. I still photograph dogs all the time. And I don't sell any of the images. We dog sit. I give the images to the people that bring the dogs to us. Why? Because I love doing it. And they love having the pictures of the dogs. So anyway, back to this. This is just very, very nicely done. I could see an entire project and photographing, old trains, different buildings and stuff. Just so many different things that could be done. Rust. There's a guy, Jerry Deeds, that's down in Big Canoe. Not Big Canoe, he's down further, down in Cumming. He photographed rust, and he's just got a whole series of rust images. And I love it because he finds patterns and shapes inside of the rust. And that's his theme, that's his project, in addition to water lilies at Gibbs Garden. So he does a great job with it. But this type of stuff, really, I just find, wonderful. The detail in this thing is absolutely incredible. Very, very nice. I'm guessing this is Sparks Lane from the opposite side that everybody else typically photographs Sparks Lane. I love roads. I love the idea of leading someone to nowhere. Because again, the tree is a critical element in this frame, and the photographer did a great job of having positioned themselves that you can see some of the road and the edge of the road through the arch of the tree that's hanging over the road. If that tree would have blocked out the road behind it, you don't have a destination point to carry you even further. So with this one, you go through that nice little S-curve, you see the tip of the hill, you see the edge of the road there that's going over the gravel road. Very nicely done. I love the fences leading down on both sides of it. Just very, very nicely done. The rule of 9.5 tenths is in effect here. So I think there's nothing happening in the sky. Everything is happening in the foreground. So I think the photographer did a great job of that bottom 50% being the tree and the road, that top 40% or so being the mountains with the saturation and the trees behind it. So very, very nicely done. Talk about timing. I'm hoping that this was not a remote control rosette spoonbill. If it was, then you shouldn't miss it if it's like a little drone of some sort. But this is another time that when a bird is coming in for a landing, and if you're going over to Wheeler this weekend, you will find out that you learn to anticipate when a bird is going to take off. Those birds lean forward, and then you just start to see them move a little bit. That's when you just hold the shutter button down. With these birds, when you see them starting to come in and you see those big flaps starting to come out of the feathers, you know they're getting ready to land. You just hold that shutter button down. And the square composition in this one, fantastic, because you want to leave extra space when a bird is flapping its wings, because if I had $1 for every image I've done of an eagle or a hawk or any other bird where I've clipped off 10% of the wing, I would absolutely be a millionaire. You just never see those images. So the photographer did a good job of leaving the additional space around the bird, cropping it in post, but the square crop was definitely the way to go in this image, because when you look at it, it's very balanced. On each side, left and right of the bird's wings, it's equal distance. The space above the wing is about the same. If you were to average those two out, they're not on the same plane, but it would be about the same. And just that little space between the bird and the landing spot for the log is just perfect. So very, very nicely done. Good depth of field in this one as well. Love this image. I might guess Rick on this one, because Rick was in Iceland, and this is one of my favorite places to actually photograph. And whoever did it, if it is Rick, great job, Rick. Whoever did this image, perfect choice of shutter speeds, because when that water comes in, it's not as exciting as when the water goes out. Because when the water goes out, there's all these little bubbles. If you pick the right shutter speed, those bubbles become what? Leading lines. And all these nice leading lines take you from all sides of the frame, the contrast around the rocks, take you right down to that big chunk of ice. And I think that's what's crucial. So could you have stopped the image at that point? I think you could, but there's enough great stuff happening in that gold reflection of the sunlight rising on the horizon that you want to include that in there. So very nicely done. This is perfect to be a vertical. It wouldn't be as successful as a horizontal, because there would be a lot of additional empty space, and the water would be equidistant going out to sea versus, in this case, appearing to lead you to that big ice chunk. So very, very nicely done. I still like to do portraits occasionally, just not weddings. Brides scare me. Grizzly bears don't, brides do. And this is just one of those images that you just want to know the story. There's so much in this image. It's got that visual impact of what are these kids thinking? You want to know what's there. And that's what this image is supposed to do. It's supposed to evoke some type of thought process on the viewer. And this is what it does. Perfect choice of number one, the composition, but the choice of processing. I don't think it would be as strong if it was color, because the colors would distract from the kids' faces, especially the one on the right with those, incredibly sharp, brilliant eyes. I think that a color image would not have done that. So very, very good choice. So nicely done. Couple of eagles, female on the right, male on the left. Females are bigger. Eagles are one of those birds that the female's 30% larger typically. I like it. I am one of these people that if I'm going to use something to frame an image, I'm going to make it obvious. So there is a branch that sort of semi-frames this image on the top, but it's a very good image, but I think that branch may distract you from the image overall a little bit. That if there was one on the bottom, I think it would be stronger. But this sort of takes your eye to the top because that branch is there. It's not in focus, so it almost works against the viewer versus complementing the image itself. Excuse me. So how do you get rid of that besides a chainsaw? Simply lower your perspective just a little bit and then zoom in a little bit just to eliminate that out of the frame if possible. Again, it's easy for me to make these statements because I'm not there. I don't know what you could do. This person could have been laying on the ground and the eagle on the right is thinking, lunch. But if possible, when you can, just try to eliminate some of that stuff, because when I'm doing an image, a landscape or a wildlife image, If it's grass or something, it's not as big a deal. But if it's something that I can make out the shape of, like in this case, a branch, I want it to be sharp because it becomes a visual impasse, so to speak, when it's not sharp. Because I feel like I'm going to walk up and I'm going to hit my head on the branch, sort of, if that makes sense. So just simply lower the perspective a little bit. Nothing wrong with going into Photoshop, taking it out. Just be honest. If someone says, did you do anything to the image, just always be honest. So you can't get in trouble if you're always honest with it.
Yeah, it used to be everybody said you photoshopped it, now it's you AI'd it.
Yeah. I did how many people are on I don't know if it's the online or the members only page. I had posted an image this morning of a judgmental bighorn sheep. And Steve Miller made a comment saying, because I said that the sheep was judging what I was wearing. And he said, I'd have to see what you were wearing to see if the sheep was correct in being judgmental. So I took an image of me in Iceland wearing some clothes, and I put it in the chat GPT, and I told it to do a few things. And if you look at the image, you will see chat GPT is dangerous. That's why I won't sign up for the unlimited one. I only do the 3 free ones a day, so I can't get sucked into it too much. But it can be fun. And I do not own that outfit that's in that picture that I posted in the reply to the comment. So go in there and take a peek at it. So this is very, very neat. It's a flycatcher, obviously, from Africa, or I'm guessing. I haven't ever been to Africa. But what I really like about this is the timing of taking off. Number one, the bird is flying into the frame. Very nicely done. What I do like about it the most, though, is the long lens makes the background go really smooth, like butter. And I think that the patterns and everything else on the bird stand out that much more simply by having that smooth background. So I think it's very, very well done. Very nice. Super cute moment. I mean, this is what a baby bear does. I mean, it hides up in the trees. My only thing with this is it's a very tough lighting situation. They tend to get up there. That's where they take their naps. So you've got a lot of brightness around the bear from behind. Short of really doing total AI and replacing the background, this is probably as good as you can get in this situation because there is so much light that's there. So you found the picture?
He did.
Yeah, we'll put it up on screen later.
Oh, God.
I found it too.
So,
Red, sexy.
yeah, I think this is a great moment.
Light is your color, yeah.
So what you have to look at is there are times that when I'm out photographing that I'm capturing a memory of a moment. And those are what I refer to as images. Because I'm selecting a lens, I'm selecting the focal length, I'm selecting an f-stop, I'm selecting the exposure and everything else about it. Then there are times that you just want to capture the moment. And this to me is the capture of a moment. And what a great moment. You've got this beautiful little bear cub in a tree that you don't want to forget. You want to always remember it. It's going to bring up great memories. And I think this is one of those that's the capture of a moment versus the memory of that moment that's there. But still very nice.
Would you put down the luminosity of the green a little bit? Because I think the green is overpowering.
Yeah, well, the green is not as overpowering as the white around it. So, and the white is what makes the green look overpowering. But yes, you could take your eyedropper and bring down the saturation of just the green, see if that helps a little bit. Or try to figure out a way. If you do tone mapping, you could probably get in there and very easily bring down the white some, but don't know how much. So this image, I was just supposed to critique. It's not eligible to be judged, correct? And I'm not saying it. I know whose it is, and as soon as I saw it, I knew exactly whose it was. Just an absolutely beautiful image. I would love to believe that he didn't get a rake and rake those leaves out of the reflection. He's shaking his head no. So absolutely incredible. I would have raked the leaves out. So one of my other teachers when I was growing up in photography was a guy named Brian Peterson, who just passed away last year. And Brian Peterson's dad was a Methodist minister. And Brian said every Sunday for all of his childhood, he listened to his father say that man was placed on earth to rule over God's dominion. So Brian used to take leaves and put them on the rocks. And people would say, you know, you're talking about all this stuff, but how can you put that leaf on there and say that it's okay? And he says, now, do you really think God wanted that leaf to be in the water? Or do you think God would have preferred it to be on the rock? I'm just doing God's will by putting it on the rock and capturing an image. So, like I said, I'd have no problem if this stuff was moved. I really like the symmetry in this. The only thing that I see that even detracts or distracts a little bit, those little bright highlights on the left-hand side of the frame. But they're not so much that it takes away from everything that's there, because it's almost, the center of it is so strong and the bottom half is so strong that it doesn't really detract at all from the image. So, you know, if you could tone it down a little bit, great. If not, it's not going to affect it either way. Composition, absolutely perfect. This is a time that you do a symmetrical image or symmetrical composition to capture that reflection. Reflections are almost always meant to be symmetrical because you want to capture equal balance top and bottom. The leaves in the foreground, absolutely incredible. I'm guessing you've got a circular polarizer on there, but again, this is one of those times that the more you practice and the more you learn your gear, the better, because you would not want to have that circular polarizer at 100%. Why? Because the reflection would disappear. Same thing if you'll be standing in some place and you go, oh my God, that's a beautiful rainbow. And the people around you with their sunglasses on are going, you know, what are you smoking? Because I don't see a rainbow. Then as soon as they take off their polarized sunglasses, they see that. So there are subtleties in the landscape that taking a polarizer and turning it just enough to get the reflection that you want to get while you're still eliminating some of the glare from the leaves is really what's crucial. So something to remember with circular polarizers, they work best at 90 degrees from your subject. So, you know, if you've got from the light source, so if the light source is above it and you put it at full polarization, it's going to be the strongest. Now, full polarization in this case would have eliminated all that reflection, but it would have also given you a little more contrast in the foreground, which I don't think you need. I think you turn it at the right angle just to get the reflection, but still get good saturation, good contrast and separation in the foreground and the leaves and the trees on the left and everything else. I love the light coming in from above the falls. Is this spruce flat? Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful image. Love it. So, very nice. So this is one of those images that I had not had breakfast yet when I looked at it, and it took me about 15 minutes before I turned my head sideways and went, I get it now. So simply, you know, they simply did an image, a vertical image, then rotated it inside of Photoshop or something, so it looks like it's two leaves or two flowers that are kissing each other. So when in actuality, it's just someone probably holding a leaf or something holding a leaf on top of a mirror, did the vertical and then rotated it so it's a horizontal. Now, the photographer did some really nice stuff here. The background being purely black puts your focus onto that flower, those flowers, and absolutely wonderful. So just picture this. I turned my computer all the way upside down to see what it would look like coming out of the top. Totally different image, nowhere near as strong. And the reason being is, as human beings, and we're approaching an image, we tend to walk into it. And so if you've got open space in the foreground, it's a feeling of uncomfortable. So by having those lead in from the bottom side, it actually welcomes and embraces the viewer into the frame. And I think that the photographer, I'm guessing they did it, you know, for that reason. The answer is always yes. So very well done. I mean, just the composition itself was perfect. So I see there's another image that's coming up that's absolutely hideous.
It was a late ad.
It's not mine.
No, it's not yours.
Oh, there was someone that was with me then.
Possibly.
I was getting ready to. So I'm guessing they were. So This is Schwabacher Landing, and the joke is always in Schwabacher Landing is, where's the moose? Where's the moose? And if you ever go to the Tetons with me, sunrise may be 6 o'clock. If we're there at 4, we're late. So this particular place gets very, very crowded. And we were at the spot, and we were getting ready to walk away. And somebody in the group said, where's the moose? So I tried to throw my teaching partner, Cecil Holmes, under the bus by saying, that was Cecil's responsibility. If there's not a moose, you can blame Cecil. And much to my demise, a moose walked out of the woods, walked into the pond, and stood there for about 30 seconds, and then walked out. So just, it's just a perfect time to do it. This is one of those just serendipitous moments that you can't plan for it. I mean, you can't do it. Photographer did a great job of, if it was my image, they didn't do a good job. But whoever's image this is, and I'm trying to remember who's on the trip that's in the club. It'll hit me sooner or later. But just a beautiful capture. That moose with the in Schwabacher Landing with the mountains behind it. Just absolutely gorgeous. Just a perfect timing on the image. You've got beautiful lighting on the back of the moose. Just perfect timing. And again, this is one of those times that you could very easily do a symmetrical composition, but instead there's that little bit of asymmetry because you do have some of that stuff going on in the sky. That blue is very, very important. And one thing that you want to do is the 2 trees that are closest to the mountain itself, you want to make sure that those are not clipped off. Because if you clip those off, you've created sort of an uneasy feeling in the frame itself. The ones on the outside, it doesn't matter, but those 2 that are closest to the mountains that stick up, you want to leave some space above those so the viewer can move and navigate through the frame. Call it edge patrol, whatever the case may be, but it's one thing that you want to do. And I think that is the last one in here.
Do you already have them figured out first to fifth?
I don't.
Okay.
I have an do they have to be in order or just 5?
First through fifth.
First through 5.
Everyone just take a few minutes. David and I are gonna sit here and he's gonna get them all figured out. If you had ideas on some of this stuff, feel free to talk amongst yourself.
We should listen to their part of the conversation, just.
Anyway, as I was saying, David has made his selections, and we've got a little bit of extra time tonight. So if the person that is the owner of this photograph, the maker of the photograph, I'd like to hear a little bit from them if we could, just to kind of have a little more dialogue and not just sit here, listen, and go home. One of the things that we heard from members during the survey was that sometimes it's a little dull to come, listen, go home. Like a little more dialogue, a little more interaction. So we're gonna give that a try and see if we can make that work. So first place.
First or fifth?
We're gonna go fifth. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. Fifth place was Patrick Olmsted with flaps up, landing gear down. Patrick, are you on? You can unmute yourself if you're on. I didn't see him earlier.
That's a beautiful photo.
It is.
It is. It's, as David said, it's perfectly timed. So, and the crop is really good. The depth of field is great. There's actually a little motion in the background, which I kind of found to be really nice. It's almost like they panned with the bird as the bird landed.
The detail on the feathers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the log is sharp, so I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, but that's what it feels like, and that might just be because sometimes when you get those really wide aperture lenses, the background has some motion in it that isn't really motion, but it makes it feel like motion. Maybe it was windy and that stuff was moving.
Well, no, then he wouldn't be sharp. Anyway, Patrick's probably got a million beautiful roseate spoonbills like that.
The fourth place was from Rick Keeney, Looking Out.
Yeah. Gonna bring it up or?
Yeah, it's, well, let's
Tell us about what that picture looked like, Rick.
Well,
Imagine this. Try the little arrow.
I'm trying. There we go.
Beautiful.
That is gorgeous.
So that is my daughter's. That was taken this summer on the back, they're looking out the back of a train. The conductor was nice enough to let me out onto the little platform. And with this, I'm shooting with a Tamron 35 to 150. And so the 35 is as wide as I can go. So we're doing 30 miles an hour. I'm really trying to lean out the back of the side of the train, hopefully I don't get hit by anything. And so this is basically
You're on
just
a moving train?
oh yeah, we're going like 30 miles an hour.
We photographers will risk it for the shot, won't we?
So the look on his daughter's face is, will I have a daddy?
Exactly.
Trip is over?
I hope I'm the beneficiary.
Yeah, I hope his will is up to date.
Artistically,
You
aesthetic.
captured a beautiful
You got
moment
the
there
one-
with your daughters.
Yep, it is a beautiful moment.
Yeah, and
The look on
so
one, and then the other one's kind of hidden.
yeah,
in the
and
shadows.
the daughters are right on the 1/3 lines, and yeah, this has been entered in a lot of shows, and it seems like what most people say they like the most is having the numbers underneath the window. They just said that kind of adds a little bit of mystery to it. You don't know exactly what's going on. You know, is this a door? Is this, you know, what is it?
Cell number.
Yeah.
I think it's good that they're not looking at you, that they're actually, you know.
Yep.
it's
Yep,
like
and so they're just looking out.
They knew enough not to look at you, huh?
See, they're just seeing the scenery vanish behind the train.
They're waiting to see Dad tumble down the track.
Yeah.
We got catch lights on our eyes and
Yeah, it's
everything. It's-
And I've gotten this all out of order, and I apologize. That's actually second place. Sorry.
Even better.
I'm not even,
It's not that easy, is it, Travis?
no, it's not. I'm making notes for myself on how to do this better next month, or next time. That was the second place image, so we're just out of order. So, we'll get over it. You know, we're all human, and
We can process this.
I'm writing it down.
I've got it
Just
written
make
down.
sure
I've got it written
someone's
down.
giving it to me.
I got it written down. I'll take that off your plate there, Mike. Fourth place, which was where we were supposed to be, is Rick Olson. And Rick, you're here.
So, I'm here. That is where we're going tomorrow.
Yep.
That was about a year ago. I had just gotten Nikon for the first time after 13 years of shooting Pentax. And I was learning the camera, and I had set it up at home to try to be ready to shoot birds in January. And so, yeah, that was from where we're going tomorrow. I got very lucky that I had these three in a line. I could see they were going to intersect the moon, and I said, "You got to be kidding me!" I looked at the camera, and just like you said, David.
Just hold it, machine gun it off.
Like my pelicans in St. Augustine.
Your timing was
Same concept.
impeccable, Rick, because I used to do a lot of shooting on the St. Johns River of birds there, and they take flight. They don't always cooperate with which direction they go. That's just perfect.
Yeah, I tell people this a lot. I think your very, very best photos always have an element of luck. There's
Oh,
an element of luck.
100%.
But I planned it.
I'd rather be lucky than good. Isn't that the saying?
You
Absolutely.
plan to be lucky.
You
All
can
right.
put yourself in the right place at the right time, but you still need some luck.
Yep.
The third place image was from Philip Haynes. It did not have a title. So that's third place. Philip, are you on the Zoom tonight?
I'm here, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We can hear you now.
Okay.
Called locomotion.
So tell us a little bit about your image there.
That was one of the images taken on our October train chase that we did as with the group there. Catching the train just shortly after it came out of the tunnel there.
As it went by, you didn't see anybody fall off the back that was photographed from their daughters, did you?
Was that what that was?
It's See, our field trips are producing images for the club
Yeah,
members.
true.
Like,
Very nice.
this is why you got to be on the field trips. These field trips are great chances to go out and spend time with like-minded people that are not going to tell you to hurry up. Are you done taking pictures yet? So,
What edge effect did you use?
Philip, what edge effect? David asked what edge effect that is to make it look like that.
Actually, I just used linear gradients on the masking on each side and just kind of, added, instead of burning it out, I just kind of dodged each side with a linear gradient.
Okay, so it was all done by hand. It wasn't a preset something.
No, all done by hand.
Good job.
Nice.
That's nice.
That's good because a lot of people would just hit the button that says "Give me a border on it." So
Border.
excellent. Well, thank you for sharing the image. All right, we already covered second place. Rick Keeney with his daughters. A little out of order, but we'll be all right. It's really hard to find the mouse on this screen over here, but
You can use the arrow keys.
well, yeah, I probably could. This one, I'm gonna have to zoom. This one was submitted much smaller, so we'll zoom in on it. Well, not that much. There we go. And that's that's called Tremont, Smoky Mountain National Park by Margie Greer. I think I saw Margie was on the call tonight.
I'm
Margie,
here.
you want to tell us a little bit about it?
I'm here. It was my first time visiting the Smoky Mountains National Park, and I was up on the bridge. So, and there was a lot going on in the image, a lot of great things to get your attention, but the fog was definitely the focal point for me, and I was trying to get a sort of a C curve with the river leaning into the fog. So that was the Smoky Mountain National Park is just amazing. And
Found out why I like it so much, huh?
yes.
I always tell people it's my favorite place on the planet, not just in the country, but of all the places I've been, it's my home away from home. So
I'm ready to go back.
I don't blame you.
I think I'm going in 2 weeks.
I didn't get that phone call.
Well, I have to figure out when. I'll call you.
Well, thank you everybody for participating. We had 20 images submitted, so that was really great.
I think so, yeah. So whose was the Moose and Schwabacher?
That was John Kendricks.
Oh, okay. He was there.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Where his camera was.
Because you're supposed to submit images that are yours. So, again, thank you everyone for being here in person, for being here online, for making this club what it is. This club has a bunch of really talented photographers that I'm really proud to be a part of it. In what little faction I am. So let me see what we had in the chat. Okay, nothing, no questions. So thank you so much everybody. And again, mark your calendars for next month. We'll be on Zoom when we've got Matt Payne talking to us about photographing a new location sight unseen and tapping into the creative side of that. So have a good evening everyone. Thank you much.